Before we get into the actual how-tos of slowing down our pace, just a heads up, slowing down our pace is going to seem weird at first. I know this because I'm a naturally fast speaker, so when I had to control my pace, it did seem a little awkward. And that just happens because we are just used to speaking at a much faster pace than normal. If we play back whatever I just said at a much faster pace, this is how that sounds to me. And that just happens because we are just used to speaking at a much faster pace than normal. And when we slow down, it may feel weird, but to the person who's listening to us, this is a normal pace of speaking. So how do we get over this hump of feeling awkward about a slower pace? And how do we actually control our speed of speaking? Let's get into it. The first thing to understand is where we actually stand. So the average speaker speaks for about 100 to 130 words per minute. To find out where we fall in this entire range, we can simply have a conversation with a friend over a phone, time ourselves, open up the Google Docs application on our laptops and use the voice to text feature. Whatever you're speaking will be translated into text, which will help you calculate the number of words you've used. And when you divide that with the total number of time you've spoken for, you'll arrive at your words per minute. Now, this is important to do to understand the extent to which we need to practice the tips that we're going to get into. And it's most likely that since you're already here, you're falling in the range of a faster speaker. How do we slow down? The very first thing is to control our impulsive reactions. And that happens when we pause before we answer. It's very natural for us, especially if we are fast speakers, to immediately answer someone as soon as they ask us a question. What do you do for a living? I'm into marketing. But if we can control that impulse and simply pause for a brief second before we answer that person, two things will happen. Firstly, we'll feel a lot more grounded with our answer because we've given our minds a little more time to process the question, even if it's incredibly simple. And secondly, and more importantly, it makes us more comfortable with silences in conversations, even if they are as brief as a second. So instead of quickly answering a question, we can do this instead. What do you do for a living? Pause. I work in marketing. It automatically makes us slow down. The next thing to do is to open our mouths a lot more than we're used to. When we speak quickly, our mouths don't open so wide so that we can reduce the amount of time between two words. But if we talk like this and really open our mouths, we sound a lot more articulate and automatically slow our pace down. Now, we don't need to talk like that all the time, but it does help to practice this exercise. So if we have a speech or a presentation coming up, while we're rehearsing for it, if we were to really open our mouths and speak, when we go on stage, we'll feel a lot more natural being slower, and it'll help us come across as a lot more clear and confident. The third thing that we can do is to be a lot more conscious of our breath. And by this, I don't mean deep breathing. But when we end up speaking too quickly, in certain situations, it might be because we're under pressure or we're feeling nervous about something. And at that moment, what tends to happen is shoulders tighten up and our pace increases because our body is in a fight or flight response, even if it may not seem like that all the time. This could be in an interview, a negotiation, a public speech, or even if you're on a date. At these moments, it's really helpful to become conscious about our breathing. Most likely, we'll notice that our breathing has become quite shallow. And if we just become a little more conscious about that, we can loosen down our bodies, make our breathing a lot deeper, and that automatically helps us slow down our pace. Now, while these tips are great and I really hope that they help you, there's a certain exercise that you can do on a daily basis which will help you reduce the pace of your speech. Just spend a few minutes on it for 30 days and you'll see significant results. The entire exercise is broken down in the next video right here.